The Father, by French writer Florian Zeller, has been one of the most acclaimed plays of the past couple of years. Kenneth Cranham was recently awarded the Olivier for Best Actor for his role as Andre, the elderly man sinking into dementia. I spoke to Kenneth Cranham in his dressing room at the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham, the last date on the current tour. I asked him if he'd been surprised at the play's success. Had he expected it to be such a winner?
I thought I was on to a winner, but I didn't realise how much of a winner, because I didn't realise the strength of the play until I did it with audiences. Because it completely changes axis during the run of the piece. I mean, in fact, the first 4 scenes is Andre, and then from then on, the audience has to sort of empathise.
It totally involves the audience.
They get drawn in.
And they have the same problems.
They have the same problems of having to deal with Andre.
Because I thought, surely there was a chair there in the last
Exactly.
scene.
Yeah.
And I think this is part of the play. It's the sort of slowness, the grinding on, slowly but surely, getting slightly worse and worse and worse. And I think the audience is very much drawn in, like with the Blackout music, where the record seems to get more and more cracked and more jerky.
Yes, yeah. I mean, even recently people have complained to the management about the sound system. But
I think it takes a couple of scenes before you realise that you are being drawn in like that.
That's part of it. I mean, it actually gives me an indication, the distorted soundtrack, as to what stage I'm at. I have to listen to it and think, oh, that's where I am. When I first started doing the play, the stage management had to tell me what the next scene was, because the scenes aren't written in order. So, someone would whisper to me, "You're in the chair, you silly old bugger," or whatever. And
has the play changed since you started doing it? Isn't it, 18 months or so you've been doing it?
Well, tonight's performance is my 259th.
Wow.
I've had 4 different casts, 3 different daughters, and myself and the daughters are the central relationship. So I've had Leah Williams, Claire Skinner, and now Amanda Drew, and they're all completely different.
And that changes the dynamic of the whole thing?
Completely. And, because Claire was quite reticent, and it's been very interesting having a drama student daughter, because she's so intense in her opinions and hearing what she says about it all. Each of them, the last 2, Amanda and Claire, only had 2 weeks to rehearse it, which is really quite hard. But I did get together with them beforehand and record the principal scenes.
Had they seen it before they came into it?
No. So the version that Claire Skinner was in, they did a radio version. Now you might think, how can you do this on the radio? Because you're not going to see the set emptying, you're not going to see the same characters played by different people, but actually they're going to have different voices, and it's going to work in another way. And Amanda Drew wanted to hear it. She wanted to hear where it had got to. So I was able to get her a copy of it.
What did you use to draw on for your?
Well, my own father. I had 7 years with him, the last 7 years of his life. The previous 5 years he'd nursed my mother, and then my mother died, and then he and I, we actually went on a series of epic journeys together. He'd never been in Eurostar because he'd been looking after my mother, and the grandest journey we ever made was overnight to Rome, and he was 5 days in Rome together. We went to Bordeaux, but it started off. Bruges got lots of votes because his walking wasn't that good, and Bruges is flat. But accidentally, we got marooned in Brussels because Eurostar was broken, and we went to Brussels a number of times, and we would sit in the Grand Place together, and we would drink those fruit beers that the Belgians favour, which are delicious but quite strong. And the doors on the lavatories had designs in period costume, and at a certain point we couldn't tell the difference between the men and the women. When that happened, we'd go back to the hotel and have a sleep. and then start again.
So the play has a very personal.
Yeah, it really has, because my father had Parkinson's, which isn't as jangled as Alzheimer's, but it does have some things in common.
Because the thing that I noticed in the play is that, and I'm sure this is how it happens, is that at the onset of dementia, to the person who's suffering, it's nothing. So I misplaced my glasses. So what?
I know, but that's what I love. That's what I love about the way this is written, is that the way he says, "Look, I can manage on my own. I don't need anyone." It's a bit.
But there is a tipping point.
Yeah, and there was with my father at a certain point.
But how did you? Was that determined in the writing of this play or during rehearsals? Where did you decide that tipping point would be?
Well, the tipping point isn't clear because you never quite know where he is, and as he doesn't know.
I think the absolute is the end where he's sort of sitting there screaming or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is my version, because Florian, his English isn't very good, and my version of it is there's only two real scenes, which is the first scene and the last scene. The first scene is a true scene, and the whole play is him in that bed at the end trying to work out how he got there. So he's recast the people that work in the hospital in his own memories, you see. They've become the Mr. and Mrs. Hyde of the other figures in his memories, you see. And that man that hits him is the man that works in the hospital.
It takes a long time, in the audience, it takes a long time to work that out. I don't think you're actually sure, even at the end of the play, that is.
No,
because I think I said in my review, I wasn't sure if you were looking backwards or forwards or sideways.
As neither is he.
Exactly. Well, exactly. So this is the wonderful thing, is that the audience is really drawn into it.
But what is extraordinary is that it manages to be like that and be very clear at the same time. There's no fat on it. There's no wasted stuff in this play. There's nothing where you're losing the audience because they don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, exactly. Was there ever, not a danger, but was there ever a point where you thought, I'm going a bit too far here, I need to bring it back a bit? Because I would think it'd be quite easy to overact it or to overemphasise the little things.
I don't know, because I play very strongly certain things which I know are very potent elements in Alzheimer's. Like, I keep losing all my things, everyone's helping themselves. They all think that, apparently. There was a woman who 2 days a week was a hairdresser, and the rest of the time she'd Lee and C looking after people with Alzheimer's, and I've talked about it all with her, and all those things about possessions, wills, money, all that they are regular obsessions with Alzheimer's. And you hear again and again that whenever you see them again, they don't know who you are.
One thing which I don't think was completely clear in the play was the time span.
Well,
was it weeks or months or years?
It's nothing like that, I don't think, because about 2/3 of the way in, Pierre says, 10 days ago, we were supposed to be going on holiday to Corsica and we couldn't go because you'd had that fight with Isabel. So that's actually quite a short space of time. Couple of weeks, yeah. But he seems to...
And normally what's the progression of dementia?
I don't think there's... sometimes that the disintegration is quite quick. I've had some amazing letters from people. I've had this letter from a man, and it was such an extraordinary letter. I wrote to him and said, "Look, can I quote from your letter? Can I show people this letter?" And it's of the nature of, look, I'm a 6'6" ex-rugby player with a broken nose, and I don't usually weep in theatres, but this is the first time I've understood my father's condition, because my father was in that state of being, a rather sort of elderly, sort of getting in a bit of a state, and then he got injured and he went to hospital, for which he's never going to re-emerge, and he spends all his life in his pyjamas. I mean, so much in the play was the same for this man as his father.
Probably there's nothing essentially different between the play and his father, but it needs
right.
to step back and see it.
But he said he's put a lot of effort into trying to understand his father and hasn't been able to until he saw this play. The play gave him some way of...
But how do you cope with somebody, with a parent who's got Alzheimer's or dementia? How do you cope?
How do you cope? I mean, and I've read the figures of how much of this is around. It's quite and I've actually heard people talking on buses. They always used to talk with the big C. You will hear the big A mentioned now. There is a real fear. And people are doing things like they buy things online from a village in Japan where no one gets Alzheimer's, and they eat their mud, and just like they're going into strange areas because they're so frightened of this one.
If it was done in a very stylised way rather than a sort of realistic way, it'd be almost Beckett, wouldn't it?
Well, Florian, admires Pinter a great deal. One of his plays, which I haven't seen, is apparently based on Pinter's Betrayal. And
that's the truth, is
it? Yes, I think. I haven't seen it, but it's... And one of the critics of this production said that he remembers me, when he was young, playing Stanley in The Birthday Party and spending the entire play in pyjamas. And so here's me again. And the line is in The Birthday Party. Goldberg, who with me was played by Pinter, says, "You're getting on my breasts, Webber."
David Barron.
That's right, David Barron, yeah. "You're getting on my breasts," and the line in this one is, "You're getting on my tits." And so there's even some of the same lines.